Hey guys, so today's video is going to be a bit of a sequel to my last video on Saturday that I posted about products that I wish I didn't own, products that I kind of maybe regret buying or maybe just haven't yet found a way to make them work for me. But today I wanted to retest some of these items and try out some maybe different ways of using them. A lot of you shared some really great tips with me in that video. Many of you had these products and maybe didn't really love them to begin with, but then you found a way to make them work that you really ended up liking. So I'm going to test some of those out today. Some of these tips sound really smart and like things I wouldn't have even thought to try myself. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm also going to be throwing in some products that weren't included in that video that maybe I'm just currently testing out just because I didn't have a product in like every category. But for foundation today, I'm going to use the ILIA Super Serum Skin Tint SPF 40. I have been testing this out for the past maybe 5 days or so, and I'm still trying to figure out my feelings on it. But this was sent to me by the brand, and so far I think I really like it. I've been just applying it with my fingers. That seems to be the best way to apply it because it is a very kind of thin, liquidy texture, and so I don't think a sponge is the best way to apply this one just because it might soak up too much. So even though this is described as a skin tint, I actually feel like the coverage of it is pretty good. I would almost say that it has medium coverage. Even though I think they only claim that it has light coverage, I would say, at least with the amount that I applied, which was a pretty normal amount for me to apply, I get good coverage. I mean, I think it looks really good. It is very dewy. Like, that's one of the first things I noticed about it is like it is super dewy. So, you know, if you don't like that or if you've got oily skin, you probably would hate this. But I don't know, I kind of really like it. One of the products that I want to retest is the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector. I have the shade light to medium. And I was talking about how I don't dislike this product, but I just don't really feel like it's that necessary for me. I do enjoy it on like very light makeup days, but I do feel like when I use it underneath a concealer, it just doesn't really add much to make that extra step warranted. But Jessica shared a tip that actually sounds really useful to me. She said, when I first got the Becca corrector, I really didn't understand the hype. Recently, I've been putting it on top of my under eye concealer around the lines when I want a bit more or a plumping effect, and I found that it really helps to reduce the look of the lines. I hope this is another way you can use the corrector. So I think I know what you're talking about. I mean, at least my dark circles, like there is definitely like a line of demarcation right here where the dark circle starts. And that's where I tend to have the most darkness even after I've applied concealer. So I actually think that sounds genius. And I'm gonna use it with a concealer that I'm also kind of retesting this. I didn't talk about this in the video. I have talked about it before though, and how I just don't really love it, but it's the Pacifica Liquid Cover Concealer. I feel like this looks really nice when I first apply it, but it somehow kind of just like disappears, or I don't know, it almost fades away from my eye. So I'm thinking maybe the two of these together would work together well. So let's try it out. I'm gonna start with the concealer first. I like the texture of this concealer a lot when I first apply it. Like, it's very hydrating and it's a nice shade for me. I have the shade 20 NF, and I'm using this BH Cosmetics sponge that I talked about also in the same video. Not exactly retesting this, I already know how I feel about it. I don't really need to retest it, but I am still using it even though I don't love it. It's just way too firm, but it's obviously still usable as seen here. One tip, I actually didn't talk about this, but I learned this tip from LA Beautyologist on Instagram. She's an esthetician. A good way to use these kind of cheaper, like too dense sponges is actually to reapply sunscreen over makeup. And the reason for that is because it's so dense, it's probably not going to soak up as much of the sunscreen when you apply it as like a squishier, less dense sponge would. So that's one way to use it. I haven't actually tried that. I need to try that though. See, there's that concealer. For a concealer that claims to be full coverage, it's very light coverage. But let's try adding some of this Becca corrector on top of that, mainly to like the darkest areas. And I'm not going to pick up too much, just a little bit. And mainly focusing that on like the inner like third of my under eye. I mean, it is really brightening. I can't deny that. It is. I mean, look at the difference here. My dark circle is gone. At least, you know, in the viewfinder from what I can see. And it's always like this line right here that kind of is what makes the dark circle look apparent, because that's also like the deepest, darkest part of it. So, I mean, it is giving a plumping effect. I like that, actually. I like that a lot. I'm just gonna kind of leave that alone. I don't want to over blend it because I'm afraid that could just kind of defeat the purpose, but that looks really nice. This is very emollient, like it gives a very dewy finish. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more just to like this inner corner right here, because that is also one of the darkest areas. I mean, I feel like I look a lot more awake. All right, so another product that I talked about was the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in Diffused Light. And this is another product kind of similar to the Becca Corrector, where it was on my wish list for a long time. It's a very well-liked product, very hyped up, a lot of people's holy grail powder. And so when I got it, I was just kind of, I just don't really see what all the hype is about. And I'm still hoping that maybe one day I will fall in love with it. So it's definitely not something I would declutter because first of all, I paid like 20 something dollars for it, and B, it's not bad, like it's certainly usable. I'm just kind of trying to figure out what everyone else likes so much about it. But a few people told me that they didn't really like it that much until they started using it as an under eye setting powder, and then they really started to like it. So I'm gonna try that. In fact, I think I'm gonna just try this as my all over setting powder today. Another person actually said that they love it for lightly setting the cheeks before going in with powder cheek products. I didn't realize how easily everything blended on top of it until I skipped this step once, and suddenly my normal trusted everyday bronzer looked super patchy. I'm gonna try it not only as an under eye setting powder, but also just all over the face, and we'll see if I feel like my blush blends more effectively. I do feel like my under eye looks like, this is the unset eye, this is the set eye. That sounds weird to say, but it did kind of just smooth it out, right? Do you see that? Am I about to just completely flip-flop on all of these products today? Okay, I mean, that looks nice, you know? So I think I'm only gonna use powder cheek products today so we can put this other trick to the test, but I'm gonna try setting my whole face with this as well. I'm using the BK Beauty 103 brush. One thing about this, well, I have the mini and I do feel like the pan is a bit small to like really swirl a powder brush in there, but it certainly doesn't give you like a flat matte look like some powders do, which is nice. Like it doesn't really look like I'm wearing powder. See, the thing about this powder though is my face still feels tacky, like it doesn't feel like it's been set, which I guess I could see the appeal of that if you don't really like powder to begin with. Making sure to set the blush and bronzer areas. I don't know, I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing the magic of this. And I don't feel like my face is set. That's the thing. It doesn't feel like I set it. So I also talked about these two Clarity singles that are really similar in color. Like I definitely don't need both, and I kind of regret buying both of them because they're very similar. The shades are Baby's Breath and Pretty Little Liar. I really enjoy both of those, but it's just that they're practically the same shade. One is just a little bit pinker than the other, but one person suggested that I could use the pinker one as a blush, which I haven't tried that. I'm gonna try it. I'm a little worried because this is kind of like a pressed pigment. I hope it doesn't go on like way too pigmented. So I just tapped my brush in there once. Well, that's really pretty. Very fresh, kind of baby pink color. And I don't really think I have any blushes that are quite that color. But these pans are big enough that you can easily dip a blush brush in there and it works really well for that. Kind of a bubblegum pink. I don't often go for that type of color, but that's fun though. Alright, so I feel like from far away everything looks really good, but this is always my problem area, right here. In this part of my cheeks, the area between my under eyes and my cheek, specifically on the right side. It looks separated and odd, and like the foundation is getting lifted up in this area. The left side not so much, but this side, right in this region, it's not looking good. I think when I applied that blush, even though it's a powder blush, some of that foundation and concealer over here just got kind of lifted up and odd, and I think it's partially because the Hourglass powder didn't really effectively set those things. So I'm going to go in with my trusty Jordana Forever Flawless pressed powder in that area, just right there to kind of mesh everything back together. This may or may not help, to be honest. I just feel like that Hourglass powder isn't really good for setting. So that doesn't look great, but I feel like it's better. All right, well, we're gonna have to keep moving forward here, but I'm not loving that whole situation. I feel like maybe it's a combination of these two things. Maybe they don't mix well, I don't know. Maybe it's the E.L.F foundation, although I don't feel like it is because I haven't had that problem other times I've used it. So I'm gonna use my Franken bronzer that's in my project pan mixed with my Jordana powder as my bronzer today. Alright, for highlighter, I'm just going to use my project pan highlighter, which is the Becca highlighter in Champagne Pop. It's getting crumbly, but I've been told not to repress it until I absolutely have to, because apparently it doesn't repress well. I'm trying to hold off, but it's getting a little crumbly. I'm just going to do a very light dusting of that today. Alright, so I went ahead and applied eyelid primer and filled in my brows, and I realized I completely forgot to talk about the two primers. So the NYX Angel Veil primer I've actually used the last couple of days on just one half of my face. And both times I asked my boyfriend to tell me after I'd been wearing it for like several hours which side of my face he thought looked better. And both times it was the NYX Angel Veil side that he thought looked a little bit smoother, less textured. I couldn't really tell that big of a difference, but the first time he was very like certain about which side he liked better. The second time he wasn't as certain, but he still said the NYX Angel Veil side. And I had it on a different side each time just to kind of see. So maybe this does actually make a difference. I forgot to put it on today. Dang it. I don't know. Maybe there is something to this. And then the NYX High Glass primer, this is just an illuminating primer. This is something that I might mix in with foundations that are like too heavy for me. Right now I don't really have any that are, or I might mix it with my body lotion or something like that. But anyway, those are the two primers. I guess I don't really need to retest either of them today. I wish I would have applied this one, but I just completely forgot. So sorry about that. So I didn't have any palettes or eyeshadows that I talked about in that video, but I do want to test out my BH Lost in LA palette today because I've only used this once so far. I've just been really into my 1 month 1 palette and I just haven't used this a whole lot, so I'm going to use this today. And I do want to retest my NYX Vivid Brights liner that I did talk about in this last video in the shade Vivid Halo. I mentioned that it kind of cracks when it dries. I just want to give it like one more chance. So I'm thinking I want to go kind of peachy pink today to go with this blush. So I'm going to start out with the shade WeHo here. Is that how you pronounce that? I think so. It's just a matte peachy pink color. Alright, then I'm going to go in with the 405, which is a slightly deeper coral shade with a smaller crease brush, and target that more in the crease. Alright, then I'm going to dip into this beautiful shade called Sunset Boulevard. Kind of like a shimmer version of the 405, but it has like a gold reflect to it, kind of a duochrome. Really pretty. Oh, so pretty. I'm just going to apply that to my lid. I think this is going to be really pretty with the yellow liner. Then I'm going to take Malibu, which is more of an orangey peach with a golden shimmer, and kind of just layer that on top of that other shade, just in like the inner third of my lid. These shimmers are so pretty. BH Cosmetics, man. I can't believe I was sleeping on this brand for years until like just earlier this year I finally tried them. And it was all thanks to my friend Alex who sent me the Belgian waffle palette that she wasn't using. And I fell in love, and now I'm hooked. I'm hooked on BH Cosmetics. I want to try so much from them now. I think they've got the best eyeshadow formula at the price, like better than ColourPop even. I don't know how they do it. Alright, I think I'm going to go in with Starstruck now, which is this yellowy gold, and just tap that into my inner corner. Pretty. Alright, so I do want to dip into my Norvina palette because I'm challenging myself to use at least 2 shades of this palette every day of the month. So I'm going to use Base as my brow bone highlight and to clean up the edges of my look. All right, then I'm gonna take some of Wild Child and just tap that on the center of my lid. That does make a really pretty topper shade. All right, now for this NYX Vivid Brights liquid liner, I'm gonna shake it really well. It's got a little shaker thing in there, maybe that helps, I don't know. I'm gonna try to just apply as thin of an amount as I can. So isn't that such a pretty color though? Like that is so cute for this type of look. I mean, obviously it's a very pastel color, so it's not really giving like a whole lot of definition to the lash line, but it's just adding like a fun little pop of something. So in the video I talked about the E.L.F. Lash It Loud mascara and how I really don't like this because it smudges really badly. I don't really need to retest it, I already know how I feel about it. I will continue to use it and use it up, but I am currently testing the Ilia Fullest Volumizing Mascara that they sent over along with the skin tint, and I really am enjoying this so far. Do I think it's worth $28? Probably not, but I am enjoying it. So it's got one of those kind of Too Faced better than sex type of brushes that every brand and their mom is coming out with. It seems like every brand is coming out with a mascara like this. It definitely adds volume and length. I mean, I like what it does for my lashes, I really do, and it doesn't seem to smudge very badly, so I give it a thumbs up so far. Only problem is, it is a very big brush, and I did end up getting a lot of it on my lid, so I'll have to kind of clean that up, but... So a lip product that I talked about was the Clarity Cosmetics lip gloss in the shade Drop the Mic. This is discontinued. I actually bought it when it was on sale, I think getting ready to be discontinued, but it's a clear gloss with this sort of iridescent gold shimmer to it, and it's just kind of meh. It's not as pretty as I thought it would be based on the photos on the website, and it also doesn't last very long. But Little Blueberry, who's always coming through with so many tips, said try the Clarity gloss on top of darker lipsticks. Personally really like this type of gloss on top of black lipsticks. So I don't have any black lipsticks, but I figured I would try it just on top of this pink lipstick from Urban Decay. This is the one in the shade Art Walk, and it's one of their new Vice lipsticks. I think this shade will be really pretty with this eye look, but I'm thinking I do want to kind of soften the shade a bit for today's look, so. But let's just see how this Clarity gloss looks on top of it, just see what it does. I'm gonna put it on my finger first and then on to my lips so that I don't get the pink mixed in with the gloss. So there's what that looks like. It kind of just looks like a clear gloss, you know? Like I'm hardly seeing any of that like really pretty iridescent sheen that it looks like it would have. I mean, it did give some nice moisture, but I'm underwhelmed by this. I do feel like I need to touch up some of that eyeliner because it got a little bit covered up by my mascara in some spots. All right, I just went over it in the spots that I absolutely had to. All right, so there's the finished look, retesting some of these products, and out of all of these, I would say the one that I was most impressed with was actually the Becca corrector. I think I may have found the perfect use for this product, and I feel like I often say as I'm doing my makeup, I apply my concealer and then after a few minutes, like after I've applied some of my like cream cheek products and stuff and before I've set my under eyes, sometimes I feel like I need just a little bit more coverage on the under eyes, and I think that's going to be what I use this for, just to kind of plump up this deepest set part of the dark circle. So thank you, Jessica, for that tip because I think that actually makes this product really useful for me. And I also like it on its own on very light makeup days, so I definitely still think I have a use for this product and I will continue to play around with it and maybe eventually put it in a project pan. The Hourglass powder, I feel the same way about it now as I did before. I didn't really love it as an under eye setting powder. I just don't feel like it's that effective at setting. So I may just continue using this as sort of like a finishing powder. I'm not going to declutter this. I will use it no matter what. I want to get my money's worth out of it. So maybe I would eventually use it to create like a Franken product or just use it to blend out bronzers or blushes that are a little too pigmented, but I still don't really feel like this is a must-have. The liquid eyeliner. So I'm looking up close at this. Let me use my magnified mirror. The wing does look a little bit cracked. Like when I look up close, I can see where it is a little bit cracked, but honestly, like from more than a couple inches from my face, you can't really tell. So I think like the last time I used this was to do sort of like a graphic liner look. I didn't love the way it turned out because it wasn't super symmetrical anyway, but that was when I felt like the cracking was very evident. But I think for just a regular old wing, it's honestly not that bad. Like, it's really not that bad. So I think this is something that I can continue to use. And like if I'm doing a huge wing or something, that might be when it's more noticeable. But right now, like, it's such a soft color as it is, and it's such a light pastel color that I don't really think the cracking is that big of a deal. So I think I can still use this up, especially because a liquid liner isn't really something I can pass on to someone else. That Clarity Single Shadow in Baby Breath, I actually really liked that as a blush. I think that looks really beautiful and fresh, and I don't have a blush like that. And the fact that the pan of that is so large makes it very easy to use as a blush. So I'm probably going to continue using it that way. Like, I just think that's so beautiful, and I didn't have any issues blending it. So maybe the Hourglass powder did help with the blending, but it's hard to say because I've never used that as a blush before. So I'll have to keep testing this like underneath blush to see if that makes a difference as far as blendability. And then the Clarity Gloss, I still feel like it almost doesn't even look like I'm wearing a gloss. Maybe this is something that I'll just use up as kind of like a lip balm or something because it's easy to reapply, but I'm just not in love with that. Hey guys, so I actually wanted to do a little bit of a wear test check-in here because I have some observations to share with you. It's actually only been a couple hours. I've just been cleaning for the last couple of hours. I actually just filmed a Clean With Me vlog. If you're interested, stay tuned for that. It's probably not up yet. But I just wanted to point out a few things that I'm noticing. So first of all, look at how much my under eyes are creasing. Do you see that? I just feel like my under eye products are just kind of moving around a lot more than usual. And part of that could be that Pacifica concealer just doesn't have the best staying power as is, but I just feel like everything is moving around way too much, and I do think part of it is the fact that Hourglass powder just didn't effectively set my under eyes. So I think that's the main thing, is that for me at least, it doesn't seem to work well as a setting powder. I'm trying to like tap out those creases, but now I just feel like my concealer is getting lifted up. So yeah, something with the longevity there. It could be the combination of the concealer, the Becca corrector, and the powder that just isn't mixing well. So I will definitely keep testing the corrector and the powder separately and together just to see if maybe there is a better way to use them, or maybe they work better like on their own. And then that lip gloss I feel like has completely worn off. Like, my lips don't even look very glossy anymore, so not really sure what the point of that was. I just feel like I have other glosses in my collection that last better, but otherwise, the blush eyeshadow used as a blush looks really nice. And the eyeliner I feel like still looks okay. It's not, the crackedness doesn't look too obvious unless I get super up close. You guys can let me know what you think too, but so far, I think it looks okay. So anyway, this probably will be the only check-in I do. I might add some notes like in a pinned comment if I have anything else to add, but I just wanted to throw in a little bit of a wear test update on some of these things because I'm not so sure. So I hope you enjoyed this video retesting some of these products and using some of the tips that you guys shared with me. Really appreciate you sharing your tips because I do think that it will help me to find more uses for many of these products. So thank you so much for helping me out there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. And hopefully I will talk to you again very soon in my next video. Bye.